The message came late at night, quiet and sharp, landing on Elena's phone like a cut she didn't feel right away. She had been folding laundry, half watching a show, when her screen lit up with her sister's name. For a moment she smiled. Wedding planning had been stressful, and Sophia rarely texted anymore. Elena assumed it was another detail, another small request. Instead, the words were cold and final. Sophia said it would be better if Elena didn't attend the wedding. She said the day wasn't about her. She said it was complicated. Elena read it once, then again, then a third time, each time hoping the meaning would change. It didn't. She stood still in the middle of her living room, socks in her hands, feeling as if the floor had tilted beneath her dot. Elena had always believed sisters were permanent. Friends could leave, lovers could fail, but sisters were meant to stay, even when things were messy. Growing up, she had been the strong one, the shield. When their father left, Elena worked part-time to help their mother. When Sophia cried over school, Elena listened. When Sophia doubted herself, Elena spoke confidence into her life like it was fact. That history rushed through Elena's mind now, fast and painful, crashing against a single truth. She was no longer wanted. She called Sophia immediately. The phone rang until it stopped. No answer. Elena tried again. Straight to voicemail. Her chest tightened. She typed a response, deleted it, typed again, then erased everything. She didn't want to beg. She didn't want to fight. She just wanted to understand how something so big could be decided so easily. The explanation came the next morning, not from Sophia, but from their mother. Her voice was careful, slow, as if each word needed permission. She talked about the venue being small, about guest limits, about family expectations. Then she said what mattered most. Sophia was worried Elena would stand out. Elena's life was different. She was divorced, independent, confident in ways Sophia had never learned to be. On her wedding day, Sophia wanted to feel like the center of the world. Elena's presence felt like a risk. Elena said nothing while her mother spoke. She stared out the window at the city below. Cars moving freely, people going places without asking. When the call ended, the silence in her apartment felt heavy. She sat down slowly, as if her body had aged in minutes. The wedding date was still written on her calendar in neat ink, circled with a small heart she had drawn months earlier. She crossed it out without thinking, the pen pressing hard enough to tear the paper dot at first. There was no anger, just a deep, hollow ache. Elena went through her day on autopilot. She answered emails. She made dinner. She smiled at a neighbor. But everything felt distant, like she was watching her own life through glass. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed moments with Sophia, searching for signs she had missed. Every memory now carried a question. Had she been too loud? Too successful? Too free? Had loving herself become the reason she was no longer welcome? By morning, something inside her shifted. The sadness didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It became sharp, focused. Elena realized she had spent years shrinking herself without noticing. She had softened her wins, quieted her joy, made space so others could feel comfortable. And still, it hadn't been enough. She was being punished not for what she had done, but for who she had become. That realization hurt more than the rejection itself. Elena sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open, the wedding date glowing. In her memory, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She opened a travel website instead. Her fingers moved quickly, almost without thought. Italy appeared on the screen, bright and distant. She remembered a conversation years ago, Sophia talking about wanting to see the Amalfi Coast, dreaming out loud about blue water and white cliffs. Elena had smiled then, promised they would go together someday. She booked the ticket. The confirmation. Email arrived seconds later. A one-way flight. Same week as the wedding. Elena leaned back in her chair, heart pounding. For the first time since the message, she felt something close to control. This wasn't about running away. It was about choosing not to stay still while others decided her worth. Still, doubt followed her. Was she being dramatic? Was this just another way to hide from pain? Late at night, alone with her thoughts, guilt whispered that she was overreacting. That family required sacrifice. But another voice answered back, firm and clear. Family should not require erasure. As the days passed, Elena packed slowly. She didn't tell anyone about her plans. Each folded dress, each item placed in her suitcase felt like a quiet promise. She wasn't sure what she was chasing. Peace, distance, maybe justice. All she knew was that staying home while her sister celebrated without her felt unbearable. The night before her flight, Sophia's wedding website went live. Elena didn't mean to click it, but curiosity won. Photos of the venue filled the screen. Flowers. A future that did not include her. Elena closed the laptop, her hands steady, her heart hardening in a way she had never felt before. She wasn't just hurt anymore. She was done being invisible. As dawn broke, Elena lifted her suitcase and locked her apartment door. She didn't look back. Somewhere between the betrayal and the boarding gate, an idea began to take shape. It was dangerous, tempting, and impossible to ignore. If she had been pushed out of a fairy tale, she would write her own. And this time, the world would see it. Italy did not heal Elena the way movies promised. It sharpened her. The air felt cleaner, the light brighter. But inside her chest, everything stayed tight. She arrived alone, dragging her suitcase over stone streets, surrounded by couples laughing. Hands linked, futures shared. Each sound reminded her of what she had been cut out of. Still, she kept moving. Stopping meant thinking, and thinking hurt. The villa sat high above the sea, quiet and white, with windows open to the wind. The first night, Elena barely slept. Waves crashed below like restless thoughts. She replayed Sophia's words again and again, hearing the calm in her voice, the certainty. That calm hurt more than anger would have. It told Elena the choice had been easy. The next morning, Elena stood on the balcony with a cup of coffee she didn't taste. She watched boats move, slowly across the water. No one down there knew her story. No one cared who she was related to or what she had been denied. For a moment, the idea felt freeing. For another moment, it felt wrong. Why should she disappear quietly when the damage done to her was loud? She opened her phone. Notifications were empty. Back home, wedding preparations were likely in full motion. Dresses steamed, seats arranged. A place carefully chosen where she would not sit. The thought burned. Eleanor's thumb hovered over her camera app. She lowered the phone, annoyed at herself. She wasn't here to prove anything. She was here to breathe. That promise lasted less than an hour. In town, she passed a small boutique with mirrors lining the walls. Dresses hung like art, flowing, elegant, nothing like what she usually wore. Elena stepped inside without planning. 2. The owner greeted her kindly, asking where she was from, if she was celebrating something special. Elena almost laughed. Celebrating felt like a word from another life. But she nodded anyway. She tried on a dress the color of sunset. When she looked in the mirror, something shifted. She didn't look like a guest waiting for an invitation. She looked like someone choosing herself. The feeling scared her. It also thrilled her. She bought the dress. That afternoon, she booked a photographer. She told herself it was for memories, for marking a turning point. She didn't mention the wedding date. She didn't say the word revenge. But it was there, sitting quietly between every decision. Each choice felt like stacking stones, building something solid where she had been made to feel small. Days passed quickly. Elena explored the coast, waking early, moving often. She learned where the light fell best in the mornings. She learned which cafes felt warm, which streets stayed quiet. She posted nothing at first. Silence felt powerful. It made her feel like she was holding a secret. At night, doubt returned. Alone in the villa, she questioned herself. Was she turning pain into a show? Was she becoming the very thing Sophia feared? Attention had never been Eleanor's goal. Respect had. Belonging had. Now those needs were twisted into something else, something sharp and visible. On the fourth day, she posted a single photo. It showed her standing alone by the sea. Hair loose. Face calm. No explanation. Just one sentence. Sometimes, distance tells the truth. She set her phone down and went for a walk, heart racing like she had crossed a line. By evening, the comments had started. People asked questions. People guessed. People shared. Elena watched quietly, a strange mix of relief and guilt washing through her. No one knew the full story, yet they understood enough. That felt dangerous. That felt like power. More photos followed, spaced carefully, never rushed. Elena was not chasing attention blindly. She was shaping it. Each image told a story without naming names. She never mentioned her sister, never spoke about weddings. She let others connect the dots. That distance made the response stronger. With every post, the weight inside her chest shifted. The hurt didn't vanish, but it changed direction. Instead of folding inward, it moved outward, seen, acknowledged. That mattered more than she wanted to admit. Still, the conflict grew. Elena woke one morning to messages from friends asking if she was okay, if something had happened. She replied vaguely, choosing her words with care. She didn't want pity. She didn't want sides taken. Yet she couldn't deny the satisfaction she felt knowing her absence was no longer quiet. Somewhere, across the ocean, Sophia had to be seeing it. That thought followed Elena everywhere. While choosing fruit at a market, while listening to church bells echo across the hills, while standing still as the photographer adjusted his lens. The idea that Sophia might feel a fraction of the shock. Elena had felt tightened her jaw. That was the line she walked now. Between justice and cruelty. The photographer asked her to smile. Elena did, but it wasn't joy. It was resolve. That night she lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. She imagined Sophia scrolling through her phone. Confusion turning to irritation. Irritation to worry. Elena told herself she wasn't doing this to hurt her sister. She was doing it to stop hurting herself. But the truth was less clean. There was satisfaction in being seen. In being impossible to ignore. The wedding date crept closer. Elena planned one final shoot for that evening. A long table for one. Candles. Soft light. A fairy tale scene with no prince, no guests, no permission required. She told herself it was symbolic, a closing chapter. Still, her hands shook as she approved the details. Revenge had never felt like fire. It felt like control. Like standing tall after being pushed aside. Elena knew she was nearing a choice she could not undo. Each post, each image pulled her closer to a moment where silence or truth would decide everything. As the sun set on the eve of the wedding, Elena stood alone on the terrace, phone in her hand, the sea darkening below. She wasn't sure anymore if she wanted revenge or release. All she knew was that the world was watching now, and stepping back would hurt almost as much as stepping forward. The plan was no longer just an idea. It was alive. The wedding day arrived faster than Elena expected. She woke before sunrise, heart already racing, as if her body knew something important waited ahead. The villa was quiet. The sea below was dark and calm, hiding its movement. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, phone face down beside her, afraid of what might already be there. She didn't check it right away. Instead, she dressed slowly, choosing the final outfit she had planned days ago. It was simple, elegant, strong. As she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Not because she looked different, but because she stood differently. Straighter. Firmer. Like someone who had crossed a line and could not go back. Outside. The photographer arrived early. He spoke softly, respectful, unaware of the weight of the day. Elena nodded, gave short answers, and stepped onto the terrace. The light was perfect, the kind people chase for years. Normally, she would have appreciated it. Today it felt like pressure. Her phone vibrated. She froze. For several seconds she didn't move. That small sound carried too much meaning. Messages meant reactions. Reactions meant consequences. Elena picked up the phone with steady hands, even though her chest felt tight. The message was from Sophia. It was short. Was this intentional? Elena. Read it once, then again. She imagined Sophia somewhere far away, surrounded by flowers and guests, holding her phone with trembling fingers. Elena didn't feel joy at that image. She felt tired. She walked away from the photographer, stepping into the quiet corner of the terrace. The sea wind touched her face, cool and sharp. This was the moment she had been moving toward without admitting it. The choice stood clear now. She could explain herself publicly. She could tell the full story. The internet was ready. People would listen. They already believed her. If she spoke now, the damage would be loud and permanent. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Words formed quickly in her mind, sharp and clean. She could say she had been uninvited. She could say she had been pushed aside for being herself. She could finally be seen as the wronged sister, the one who stayed silent until she couldn't anymore. The idea felt powerful. It also felt heavy. Elena closed her eyes. Memories rushed in without permission. Sophia as a child, hiding behind her during storms. Sophia calling her late at night, afraid she wasn't enough. Elena remembered how often she had been strong for both of them. How often she had stepped aside so Sophia could shine. Had that strength turned into something threatening? She opened her eyes again and looked at the sea. Revenge promised relief, but only for a moment. After that, there would be questions, interviews, opinions, sides. The story would no longer belong to her. Another message appeared. People are asking me what's going on. Sophia wrote. I don't understand. Elena felt a sharp pull in her chest. For the first time since arriving in Italy, she wanted to cry. Not from pain, but from exhaustion. Carrying hurt took energy. Carrying revenge took more. The photographer called her name gently, reminding her it was time. Elena turned back, nodded once, and walked toward the table that had been set for the final scene. Candles flickered in the early light. A single chair stood at the head. Everything looked unreal, like a dream paused in place. She sat down slowly. The camera clicked, Soft. Steady. Elena placed her phone on the table, face up this time. She unlocked it and began to type. Her hands moved slower now, guided by something deeper than anger. "This wasn't about you," she wrote. "It was about me learning how to stand alone." She read the message twice. It didn't accuse. It didn't defend. It didn't explain everything. It told the truth without spilling blood. She sent it. The phone stayed silent after that. No replies. No more questions. Elena turned it off completely and slid it into her bag. The world beyond the terrace no longer existed. Only this moment did. The photographer asked her to look toward the horizon. Elena did. Her face was calm, but inside, everything trembled. She wasn't sure if she had just chosen peace or missed her chance for justice. The line between the two had never felt thinner. The shoot ended quietly. No applause, no celebration. Just the sound of waves and wind. Elena stood up and walked to the edge of the terrace, resting her hands on the stone wall. Her knees felt weak, not from regret, but from release. She realized something then. The power she felt didn't come from being watched. It came from choosing restraint when chaos was available. That choice cost more than revenge ever would. Later that afternoon, Elena turned her phone back on. Notifications flooded the screen. Messages, comments, articles. Her final image had been posted by others, shared everywhere. People called it brave, mysterious, strong. They guessed meanings. She never confirmed, or Elena didn't correct them. She spent the evening alone, walking the narrow streets of the town as church bells rang in the distance. Somewhere else, Sophia was finishing her wedding day, surrounded by noise and attention. Elena wondered what her sister felt now. Anger, shame, reflection, maybe all of it. Back at the villa, Elena poured herself a glass of water and sat by the window. The sun dipped below the sea, painting the sky in colors too deep to name. She felt empty again, but this time it wasn't painful. It was clean. She understood now that revenge didn't always arrive as destruction. Sometimes it came as refusal. Refusal to beg. Refusal to explain. Refusal to shrink. Elena lay down that night without checking her phone again. The choice had been made. Whatever followed would follow. The fairy tale she staged hadn't ended with applause or victory. It ended with silence. And for the first time, that silence belonged to her. Elena left Italy before the noise fully settled. She packed at dawn, moving carefully, as if loud sounds might pull her back into the storm she had stepped away from. At the airport, she avoided her phone, letting it stay buried in her bag. The world could wait. For once, she needed space more than answers. When she returned home, life felt smaller. Familiar streets. Familiar walls. The quiet was different here. It wasn't dramatic or beautiful. It was plain. Elena unpacked slowly, folding dresses she might never wear again. Each one carried a memory, not of revenge, but of choosing herself. When it mattered. Days passed. The viral attention faded from loud to distant. Messages slowed. Friends checked in, careful not to ask too much. Elena returned to work, routine filling her hours. Still, something had changed. She no longer felt the need to explain her absence or soften her story. She had learned that silence could protect as much as it could punish. One afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Elena recognized the handwriting immediately. Sophia's. Her hands paused before opening it. She wasn't afraid. She was tired. The letter was long. Sophia didn't defend herself, She didn't justify the choice. She wrote about fear, about standing next to Elena her whole life and always feeling one step behind. She admitted that pushing Elena away felt easier than admitting jealousy. On her wedding day, surrounded by praise, Sophia said she felt empty, knowing something important was missing. Elena read the letter twice. The words landed slowly, not as comfort but as truth. For the first time, she saw her sister not as an enemy, but as a person trapped by her own insecurity. That understanding didn't erase the hurt. It changed its shape. Elena didn't respond. Right away, she placed the letter in a drawer and went for a long walk. The city moved around her, unaware of the quiet shift happening inside. Revenge had brought attention. Attention had brought truth. But neither had brought peace. That evening, Elena sat alone at her kitchen table, thinking about everything she had gained and everything she had almost lost. The internet had crowned her strong, brave, unbothered. None of it was fully true. Strength, she realized, was not the absence of pain. It was the ability to carry it without letting it decide who you become. Days later, Elena finally wrote back. Her reply was short, honest. She didn't accuse. She didn't forgive fully either. She said she needed time. She said trust didn't rebuild itself just because truth appeared. She said she was open to talking when respect was no longer optional. Sending. That message felt heavier than any post she had shared online. Weeks passed. Life continued. The story faded into memory for most people. For Elena, it settled into something quieter, something lasting. She noticed changes in herself. She no longer chased approval. She no longer measured her worth by invitations or seats at tables that required silence. One evening, scrolling through old photos from Italy, Elena paused on the final image. The candlelit table, the empty chair, the stillness. It no longer looked lonely. It looked intentional. She understood then that her revenge had never truly been about hurting Sophia. It had been about refusing to disappear. The real damage would have been staying silent and small, accepting a role that denied her truth. Months later, Elena and Sophia met for coffee. The conversation was slow and careful. No raised voices. No dramatic apologies. Just two women facing the space between them. They spoke about boundaries, about expectations, about how love could exist without control. The relationship did not return to what it was. Something had been lost, but something healthier began to form. Walking home after that meeting, Elena felt light. Not because everything was fixed, but because she had stopped carrying anger like a shield. Revenge had given her a voice, but letting go gave her freedom. She realized that revenge, when stripped of drama, was only a tool. It could wake people up. It could expose truth. But it could not build a future. Only choice could do that. Elena never staged another moment like Italy. She didn't need to. The lessons stayed with her. She learned that being seen mattered, but being whole mattered more. That justice without cruelty was possible. That walking away could be stronger than striking back. The betrayal had changed her, but it did not define her. In the end, Elena didn't win by hurting her sister. She won by choosing herself, even when no one was watching. And that quiet victory stayed long after the world moved on.